Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to more Umineko today. Last stuff we left off, we actually did quite a lot. Um, I don't know how to start with what we went through last time. Um, oh, well, because it started fucked up. We watched Maria get abused, which is not fun to say in the first, 20 seconds of a stream, but it happened. So we just need to accept it. Um, you know, Rosa is probably not the best mother, as we've seen. Then it went into the dinner, at which Beatrice, or at least Maria, revealed that Beatrice gave her a letter that revealed her hidden intentions and says that if anyone could solve the riddle of the epitaph, they would grant her head. Whoever solved it would get the power of the head, the family, and the power of the witch, and all of the gold. And so that was a big thing. Um, Trying to remember what else happened last time. Um, I believe that Krieg and Battler were having a conversation about the existence of a 19th person. According to Krieg, at least, she doesn't believe that a 19th person exists. That Beatrice is actually one of the 18 people pretending to be a witch. So that is something to just keep in mind as we're playing the game. And that was essentially the last thing. Oh, and Rudolph thinks he's going to die tonight. So he did tell us that specifically. He feels like someone is after his life. So just keep that in the back of our mind as we go forward. So that's a nice little recap of last stream. Let's go ahead and get started here. Atsui could be found in a dimly lit hallway. Now and then the thunder would crash, and this had no effect on her expression. She looked completely worn out. The discussion had taken place between the relatives in the dining hall, repeating itself inside Natsui's mind. Beatrice had proclaimed that in addition to the gold, all the inheritance and property of the Hiroshima family would be given to the person who could solve the riddle. In other words, she planned to undermine the absolute guarantee that Kraus, as the oldest brother, had to succeed the family head. Only the other siblings had absolutely no chance to inherit the headship. To them, this proposal by Beatrice was extremely desirable. It was obvious that they would accept it. There was no need to play some clumsy detective game. Katsui knew that the so-called 19th person Beatrice couldn't exist. Naturally, Beatrice was nothing more than a fictional character used to pass a message that Kinzo had written himself. As proof, Kinzo had remained stubbornly neutral as to his letter's authenticity. He was completely ignoring these reckless claims that he shouldn't be able to ignore that he had given up the head's ring. In short, Kenzo had wordlessly admitted the letter held his own message. Most likely one of the servants had given Maria the letter. Kenzo had probably worked out an elaborate plan where the dress from a portrait would be prepared, and someone, probably Shannon, would be made to wear it and deliver the letter in the umbrella. By doing that, he could make it seem like the witch from the portrait had actually existed. No, if anything, that alone was proof that Kinzo was behind all this. In that case, it was the same as Kinzo trying to butt in on the siblings' private discussion. Then Kinzo, by announcing that he did everything to the person who solved the riddle, could weaken Krause's overwhelming advantage. Now it was certain. Kenzo had eavesdropped on the siblings' discussion in the parlor earlier in the day, so that he had known how Krause had staved off the attack by the other three, and to make the scales of the battle go back into balance, he had set up the strange letter which benefited Krause's rivals. He's trying to push this crazy theory that Rosa, who had a weak position among the siblings because of her age, would join Ava and Rudolph. Then, with a 3-to-1 advantage, they'd be able to overwhelm Krause yet again and make their ridiculous theories get accepted by force. By doing that, he gave them the power to resettle what they had once nearly decided conflict. They are now starting repeatedly pressing Krause to pay them a large amount of money. Using the condition that all siblings would guarantee Krause's position as a successor, talk about advancing payments was being brought up again despite having been rejected once. Of course, even without the story about the hidden gold, the Hiroshima family's store of wealth was vast. That store of wealth alone was more than enough. Even if the hidden gold was buried forever along Kinzo's death, there would be more than enough to satisfy him. Therefore, even if they weren't interested in the gold itself, Kenzo had managed to instill the lifelong fear that, on the off chance that someone found the gold, that person would be granted the headship. And this kind of Achilles heel would definitely be taken advantage by someone sooner or later. The only person with this fatal weakness was his successor, Kraus. The other siblings had found, though they'd been told by Kenzo about something that only Kraus would lose, and that they had thoroughly taken advantage of that. Natsui, as Kraus's only ally in this painful position, and as his wife, wanted to fight alongside him. She kept trying to explain to him that the existence of the gold itself was a farce. There was no need for him to compromise. Kraus has always told Natsui. He had told all the siblings. He always said that the hidden gold was nothing more than an illusion created by Kenzo. Therefore, Natsui had believed it as his wife and supported her husband on that foundation. Even so, Natsui's words didn't reach Kraus. Even though Natsui had fought so hard and lent all her strength, she continued by herself and was trying to compromise with the other three siblings. Natsui sadly and weakly wondered why she could not be any use to him, and then started getting angry. It happened when everyone decided to take a short break to cool their heads. Natsui had flared up again against Kraus. Enraged, she had asked why she could not be useful to him. He had then told her that he wanted to talk about something and invite her to her room that she was normally not allowed to enter. That room had been sealed with a heavy-looking padlock, and just looking at it gave her an uncomfortable feeling. There's no need for you to worry about anything said by those three, or even the suspicious person who calls herself Beatrice. After all, the gold is just a ruse created by Father. There's no way something like that could be found. Your position as a successor is a solid fact. What are you afraid of? Kraus removed the padlock on the door. He then motioned for Natsui to enter. Enter. What is this? There's something I want you to see. I've never shown you this before. Natsui timidly opened the door with a dubious expression on her face. It was pitch black. She reached for a switch to turn on the lights, but since this was her first time in the room, she didn't know where it was. Kraus entered behind her, pushing her in, and when he closed the door before turning on the lights, the two were swallowed up by the darkness. Only the sound of Kraus locking the door rang out through the dark. What are you doing? The lights. I'm turning them on now. Just as he said, when Kraus pushed a switch on the wall, a flickering light turned on and lit up the room. That is... Natsui had her breath taken away. The room had no windows, and at a glance it appeared to be empty. In the middle of her room, a small, round table had been set, as the lights brightened only that table, as if it were the leading part in a play. On the top of the table, a red tablecloth of elaborate design had been set out, covered with dust. And on top of that, something about the size of a grown man's arm had been set down. That something took Natsui's breath away. It's a gold ingot of incredible purity. Without this, no one would have believed in the legend of the gold. It was an ingot of solid gold. Even in the faint light, it sparkled with noble and dignified glint. This is not a proper ingot. I don't even know if it was cast inside or outside the country. It took a high level of skill to make the purest of solid gold ingots. In order to verify that purity, it was standard to have the original foundry and the name of the bank that guaranteed it imprinted on the gold. However, that ingot did not have that kind of seal. This mysterious gold bar had come from an unknown foundry. Look here. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a bar of gold. Matsui, following Kraus's words, timidly approached the ingot. Right there. Kraus pointed at the surface of the ingot. Matsui concentrated on that section. Right there was a thin imprint of the one-winged eagle crest. Natsui's breath was taken away once again. That's right. This is the legendary ingot that Father said he received from the witch that the president of Masuro witnessed and was allowed to select at random to take back with him. That gained the trust of the fixers in the business world. I had used all possible means to find it. I found it before the other siblings could. How could... Then, the legend of Father's gold is... It actually exists. The gold that the Urashimiya Kenzo received from Beatrice actually exists. Impossible. So it really does exist. Matsui was shocked. Kraus had always said that Kenzo's gold was just a fabrication, so she had believed it as his wife. However, the reality was different. Since he held definitive proof, he had been more certain than any other siblings that the legend of the gold was true. Because of this, Kraus was deeply frightened at the possibility that someone other than himself would find the gold he'd failed to find, costing him everything. But to Natsui, this truth was more than enough to split open her heart. She had thought that, as Kraus's wife, she'd be his closest confidant, which is why she had selflessly supported him. And yet, he had hid this fact from her until today. Why? Have I been so undeserving of your trust? That has never been my intention. There's simply no need to tell you. Is that all a wife means to you? Calm down. Becoming passionate easily is one of your bad habits. You're the one who's making me like that, aren't you? I've been supporting you as a wife ever since I married into this family. For your sake, I threw away the family I was born into, and I've been offering up my heart and my body to serve you. And in return, this is what I get? How could you? Kraus grimaced, looking annoyed. His expression effectively communicated how much he disliked this part of Natsui, and if he said it, he didn't say it out loud. It doesn't look like I will be of any use to you anymore. That's fine. I can resolve the troubles with the siblings by myself. I don't need your help. That's wrong! This is the Urashimiya family's problem. It's true that I am not permitted to wear the family crest on my body, but I am still your wife. And so, are you saying I am not capable of helping you? Are you? I especially wouldn't want to risk getting you involved. It'd probably make your headaches even worse than they are now. Take a rest for today. The siblings will deal with siblings' problems. It has nothing to do with you. That is all. Oh, that's gotta be rough. It's actually gotta be rough because I bet all she wants is to be seen as part of the family. A dull headache tormented Natsui. No matter what medicine she took, no matter what scents she burned, it wouldn't heal. In fact, simply wandering alone through the dark corridors and listening to the sound of the rain seemed to be a better cure. I may be Natsui, but I was never Yorishimiya Natsui. I have been despised and treated as a borrowed womb, and insulted when I couldn't even fill that role. Even so, I have tried to properly perform my duties as a wife. But now, even my husband has rejected me. I've done my best raising my daughter, as if it were the last job left to me, where I have no release from my anger and sadness. And they've caused me to subconsciously strain that relationship too. Because I've been excessively strict in Jessica's education, she dislikes me thoroughly. She despises me for having no interest in anything but grades. There is no longer anything I can do for the Yorishimiya family. No, that's no good. Despite it all, I must help my husband and beat back the schemes of the other greedy siblings. That head family won't be around much longer. Eventually, Kraus will succeed the head, and the next successor will be Jessica. Strictly speaking, the man who enters the family by marrying Jessica will become the next head, but it all comes to the same thing. I have to make Jessica an excellent successor whom everyone will accept as worthy to take over the Yorishimiya family. In the days to come, that greedy Yorishimiya Eva will probably be plotting to find some fault with the main family. And if all goes as she plans, Jessica will be dragged down from the succession which George set upon in her place. It is regrettable, but George is a man, and even more, has matured as a person. Compared to Jessica, who is right in the middle of a rebellious period, and whose grades are slightly below average, it would seem at a glance who is more fit to succeed the head. So in order to secure Jessica's position, I need to turn her into an excellent person. After doing that, I want her to find an excellent husband worthy of an excellent person she will have become. A wonderful man who will truly accept Jessica and stay with her through all of life's joys and sorrows. Was Natsui trying to entrust her daughter to fulfill some desire of her own? Natsui thought back to the days when she had no choice but to marry into the Yorishimiya family, because of that unavoidable fate. She had tried to block that from her memory. She had consciously forgotten it, and had actively attended to the life she had been given as Yorishimiya Natsui. And in so doing, she built up a new life. But just now, it felt like all that had been casually rejected. How should I think as I live my life? I do not know. Natsui helplessly rested her head against the glass of the window. The glass, which was cool thanks to the raindrops beating against it, felt somehow refreshing, even though it should have been emotionless. Right then, it seemed to be the only thing that could understand Natsui. At that point, even if somebody had appeared, Natsui didn't intend to pay any attention to them. But she did pay attention, because it was her beloved daughter. Oh, it's you, Mom. What the heck are you doing in a place like this? Thought you were a ghost. Just like always, her words were rough, and not at all like a girl's. Instinctively, words of rebuke rose to Natsui's throat. However, their strength gave out, and they didn't escape her lips. Jessica, forgive me, but my headache is awful. Please, leave me be. I see. Jessica was seeing her mother in a position of feebleness for the first time, so she was considerably disconcerted. Until just now, she had been filled with contempt for all of her parents, including her mom. But now, those feelings had been completely swept away. Her mother, utterly exhausted face, had wiped them all out. And in its place, the words George had told her floated back up in her mind. Our parents are doing their best in their own way. And because their families were counting on them, they can't afford to keep everything pleasant, and have a heavy responsibility to fight. Maybe her mother had been around in this dimly lit hallway because no one had tried to understand that part of her. Jessica hated her mother. She had no intention of speaking kindly to Natsui just because she was looking a bit frail. So when she attempted to speak kindly to her mother anyway, she had to clench her fists and gather up the words from deep within her heart. It, it sounds like you've got your hands full with the meeting thing. It has nothing to do with you. Please, go somewhere else. Is your headache bad? Should I go get some medicine? You don't have to trouble yourself. Please, leave me alone. Natsui wasn't being cold. She just wanted her daughter to go far away so she wouldn't have to bump against Natsui's short temper. But there's no chance that Jessica would realize this. Okay. Jessica hung her head, looking sad. Seeing that expression, Natsui recognized the kindness that Jessica was trying to muster. She gave her head a small shake to drive away her own unkind feelings. Then I'll leave. I'll be with the other cousins so I don't get in the way of the adults. See you later. Wait there. She called Jessica, who was trying to leave and looked lonely, to a stop. What? Thank you for being so considerate. It isn't good of me to sleep and leave you alone. Don't talk like that. You'll bring bad luck. I've made you worry, but I'm okay now. I will go. If I let my daughter see this feeble any longer, it'll only make her feel more uneasy. With that thought in mind, Natsui left Jessica with words of gratitude and made to depart. This time, Jessica called out to her mother's back. Natsui stopped and turned around, asking what business Jessica had with her. But Jessica herself didn't know why she stopped her mother, and for a while she smiled wearily, muttering to herself as she hesitated over what to say. She was poking around in her pocket when her hand touched something, and she took it out. Hey, Mom? I was given a charm today. What was it? A charm against magic? I'm pretty sure you're supposed to hang it on your doorknob, I think. I forget. There's no point in me having it, so I'll let you take it. It was the scorpion charm that Maria had given her on the beach. Although she heard of its various effects from Maria, just because mine had gone blank, was just barely able to say even that much. Jessica, thinking that her mother probably wouldn't accept it anyway, immediately drew back the hand she had stuck out, grasping the charm. So when Natsui came to take it, she was extremely shocked. What is this? Some kind of prize toy? Well, I think it's something like that. I guess you wouldn't really expect a charm like that looks like a toy to do anything. But their mother took the charm for where she grasped it in her hand. Thank you. I'll take good care of it. Sometime soon, in exchange, why don't I give you a charm that was important to me when I was a child? It's not like that's why I gave it to you. But, well, if you really say so, then I will rest for now. My headache is awful. Try not to stay up too late. Sure. Natsui put the charm in her pocket and turned away. She then disappeared into the dark hall. It seems the weather will be like this all day tomorrow after all. Dang, this makes the good weather we had earlier seem like a lie. George Aniki and I were killing time in front of the parlor television. At that point, Jessica returned. Her face was still blank. But it looked like she calmed down a little since you last seen her. Is Maria still in front of the portrait? No. She just came back and she's sleeping over there on the sofa. It's getting pretty late for her, after all. Looking at the clock, I saw it was a little past 10 p.m. Again, we were planning to stay up all night. It was about time to head back to our room. Well, my mom did have a room prepared for us in the mansion. What'll we do? I'd rather head back to the guest house. Going by what we saw of our parents, I think it's better if we weren't in the mansion. I agree. Feels like they are telling us kids to mind our own business and stay out of their way. Let's be good little boys and girls and do that. As we were talking about this, Aunt Rosa came into the parlor. She was looking all over restlessly, probably trying to find Maria. Aunt Rosa, if you're looking for Maria, she's over there on the sofa. Thank you. My, she's out cold. We must move her to a bed. If you'd like, I'll carry her over to a bed. That would be wonderful. Are you heading back to the guest house? Or are you going to stay in the room Natsui-Nissan had prepared here? We were just talking about that. We just decided to head over to the guest house. I see. And could I ask you to take Maria with you? I feel much better, more reassured if she stays with your cousins. Behind those words, she seemed to be concealing some regret that the adults, herself included, had deeply hurt Maria's feelings. Leave it to us, Aunt Rosa. After all, we do have an expert at confronting Maria with us. Are you talking about me? I couldn't do it myself. We need everyone together. That's right. Battler, weren't you the one who hit it off with Maria when you were messing around earlier? As we said this, Aunt Rosa smiled, looking truly happy. Thank you, everyone. It's like our meeting; it will last until very late. So while I'm sorry to have burdened you like this, I'll be counting on you to take care of Maria. Hey, Maria, you sound asleep? We're going to go back to the guest house. Maria muttered something indistinct, rolled over, and fell back asleep. Looks like she was sleeping deeply. She's really out of it, and I hate to wake her. Right, I'll carry her. Maria's body was much lighter than it looked. I lifted her up and put her on George Anaki's back. It was raining hard outside, and Anaki couldn't hold an umbrella and carry Maria at the same time. Like Aunt Rosa would come with us as far as the guest house to help out. However, when she heard Uncle Cross's voice call back to her, she had no choice but to return. Now that's a problem. I have to go back now. Is everyone returning to the guest house? After we left the hall on the way to the entrance, the door to the servants' room opened and Shannon-chan stepped out. It's grown very dark, so allow me to guide you. That would be great, Shannon-chan. George-kun is going to carry Maria there. Could you hold an umbrella for him? Yes, certainly. Shannon-chan brought umbrellas for each of us and a flashlight to guide the way. As we opened the front door, the downpour was quite terrific. It looked like we wouldn't have any spare time to take a pleasant walk and enjoy the nighttime rose garden. Anaki, she too heavy? Want me to carry her? It's okay. I can at least carry Maria-chan. I'm truly grateful. Please take care of Maria. Sure, you got it. And then I guess this is good night, Aunt Rosa. And I will see them over there and return here. Yes, please. Aunt Rosa watched us leave. Maria, I'm sorry for everything. Rosa's mumbling voice didn't reach the person in question, or any of the kids, but disappeared beneath the sound of the rain. After cutting through the rainy rose garden, we arrived at the guest house. If only I applied for the position of Maria carrier. Then I would have gotten a chance to have Shannon-chan's huge boobs rubbing all over my arm. It's not why I did it. It's a misunderstanding. I thought if I didn't walk like this, George-sama would get all wet. Come on, quit babbling and go in. Being urged in on by Jessica, we folded up our umbrellas and went into the guest house. Has anyone gotten their clothes wet? I can bring up some towels if you want. You don't need to worry about us that much. Thanks, Shannon-chan. Oh, that's right. We were planning to play cards or something. Would you care to join us for a bit? Huh? Who had the night shift on today's schedule? I believe we have a special schedule during the family conference. Also, I think a few alterations have been made, so I will go and check. Wait, you have to go all the way back to the mansion to find out. Don't force yourself. Oh, that's all right. I can find out from the servant room in the guest house. Please, excuse me for a short while. Shannon-chan gave a quick bow and went to the guest house servant room. The rest of us headed to the cousin's room and decided to put Maria to bed for the time being. Maria was sleeping very deeply. There was absolutely no sign of her eyes opening. For now, we get some soft drinks out of the room's refrigerator and drink those while we play cards or something. Oh! Cannon-kun! Are you here too, Genji-sama? What has happened with tonight's shift? Kraus-sama has given us an order. He made some sizable changes to the shift schedule. Indeed, Goda-san now has the night shift at the mansion. Shannon and Cannon have the night shift in the guest house. Kumasawa-san and I have been ordered to sleep in the guest house. Just now, a phone call came in saying that once you arrived, you were to remain here for the rest of the night. Huh? It certainly is a sizable change. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion have been completely reversed, haven't they? Originally, Shannon and Cannon had been assigned a night shift in the mansion, while the night shift in the guest house, where all the relatives were staying, had been assigned to Goda, who had an abundance of experience in entertaining. Kumasara should have been sleeping at the guest house, while Genji should have been sleeping in the mansion. However, it seemed that Kraus had suddenly ordered that the schedule be modified. The shifts at the guest house and the mansion had all been reversed, and Genji was spending the night in the guest house. It's probably because of Beatrice-sama's letter. So we are gonna save real quick. Just make sure that's still going. Yeah, we're still good there. It's probably because of Beatrice-sama's letter. Why, probably. After such a mysterious letter appeared, it's only natural that Kraus would suspect one of us. We served directly under the master, so Kraus-sama tried his best to keep us far away from the family conference. Genji, Shannon, and Cannon were all permitted to wear the Urashimiya family crests, the one-winged eagle, as the servants who served directly under Kenzo. Of course, since they were working for the Urashimiya family, they had to obey anyone's orders. But their only boss was Kenzo. Since only Kenzo had the right to employ them, even Kraus could not have dismissed them of his own accord. Because of this, Kraus and the others often viewed them as servants as Kenzo's underlings and shunned them. In fact, Kenzo seldom let anyone other than them into his study. The sudden shift change was probably a clear expression of the sense of mistrust that had been caused. Considering the time Kenzo had left to live, this would definitely be the last family conference before the problem of the inheritance came up. On top of that, the mysterious letter that claimed to be from Beatrice had dropped in out of the blue. Kraus definitely wanted to keep Kenzo's loyal subjects from the table of a delicate and important discussion. If you two will excuse me, I will go rest. If anything happens, call me immediately. Our guest tonight is a special case after all. Yes, certainly, Genji-sama. Genji nodded back and went behind a screen and took off his jacket and slowly began to relax over a day's worth of tension. The ones who returned just now, were they the children? Yes. The other relatives are having a conference in the mansion. It looks like it'll be a drag on for quite some time. And we got it easy. It's already this late, and then there's this weather. The rest of the relatives will probably spend the night in their rooms in the mansion. Yes, probably. I'm only saying this because Genji-sama isn't around. But I'm a little happy I was sent to the guest house, I guess. Oh? Why's that? Because you can stay with Madame and Eva-san, those bullies? We can stay away from Madame and Eva-sama, those bullies? Or do you have another reason? It's not as though I have another reason. I see. Let's do our best together in our night shift. I'm counting on you, Nissan. Just now I was asked to go to the children's room and play with them. Shannon hung her head apologetically, gazing at Cannon uncertainly. Ken didn't try to meet her eyes and spoke curtly as he sighed. Looked like he didn't plan on indulging his sister. Can't. You were assigned to the night shift. Besides which, it isn't necessary for furniture like us to respond to an invitation to play. You understand, right? Okay. Yes, I do understand. Shannon's soldiers drooped slightly. She had already expected a Cannon, a stickler for the rules, would say something like that, but she still seemed a little discouraged. As Cannon flipped through a long book, he spoke without facing Shannon. It means the children will be waiting for you. You have to apologize and tell them you have the night shift and won't be able to stay with them. Go, and come back. Huh? Yes. I'll go apologize and come back. Shannon hurriedly stood from her seat before her brother's mood could change and flew out the servants' room after giving a quick bow. As he watched her go, Cannon took a single deep breath. Kenji's voice came from beyond the screen. Cannon, I will be here, so you can go too. Genji-sama. Shannon was the only one called. It's not as though I was invited. It was only because you weren't there at the time. If you had been, you would have been invited as well. It's good to play as a child from time to time. No, such a thing is not necessary for me. Human children have a need to play. But we are furniture. Is that so? Nissan is also furniture. Even if she pretends to be a person, it will only hurt her later. I understand that, so I try not to get too close to people. That's all. Genji did not say anything after that. After a while, he stood up and used a pot of hot water to make a powdered coca, serving some to Cannon as well. Is that for real? I had no clue. Dumbass, you're too loud. You wake Maria up. Brother was so surprised he yelled nonchalantly to scatter his cards everywhere. His voice caused Maria to turn over once. She soon fell back to deep sleep. Jessica gave him a jab and he lowered his voice. Still, seriously, how'd you mention it? They really did have that kind of atmosphere, didn't they? Now I see. So George Aniki is. George couldn't be seen anywhere in the room. A short while ago, when Shannon came to the room, George suddenly said he had forgotten something in the mansion and needed to go back and get it. Shannon said she would guide him, just like she had been on the way to the guest house, and the two of them departed together. Well, there's actually signs of it for a while now. You know, questions about hobbies and favorite things. I always thought it was a bit much for a passing interest, but look what's happening now. Think of it, I get the feeling George Anaki's always been overly nice to Shannon-chan. Now I get it. According to the weather report, it looks like it'll be worse. It's worse tonight. It also seems it'll last all day tomorrow, though it should get a little better. Really? Then maybe the boat won't arrive until the day after tomorrow. I hope that doesn't interfere with your work on Monday. I already knew the typhoon would be coming beforehand. Just in case, I made sure I didn't have any plans for Monday, so it's okay. I may not look it, but I really am the type who can plan ahead in his schedule. George puffed out his chest, acting proud. Compared to his calm appearance, George always had as the oldest cousin. He now looked amusingly like a little kid. Shannon chuckled at this abrupt contrast. It's no surprise you're so well prepared, as someone who'd bring prosperity to his company someday. Well, making a company prosper is a real tough job. Money isn't the only thing that's important. I learned that well when studying under my father. Making a company prosper is like owning a castle and leading your subordinates. My dad really loves reading about great leaders during the warring periods of Japan, a hobby that's probably influenced by the fact that he shares Toyotomi Hideyoshi's name. Much of his philosophy on managing business comes from talking about them. Did you know? Takeda Shingen was feared as the leader of the strongest cavalry corps in the warring periods, starting out with his troops in complete disarray and didn't have the kind of strong leadership necessary to utilize them well. Is that true? That's a little unexpected. In order to unite his troops, Shingen showed his excellent leadership in many ways. For example, when a soldier succeeded well in battle, he'd immediately honor him with a medal. Normally that kind of thing was put off until after the war, but they were all rewarded at once. He continued diligently while on the field of battle, and immediately showed his appreciations for his troops' military exploits, motivated them in an extremely significant fashion. Also, whenever one of his troops were brought down by an illness, he would be the first to rush up to them and care for them, and so on. Takeda Shingen wasn't just the man who led the strongest cavalry corps in the warring period. He was the person who cared the most for his troops throughout the era. And because he was that kind of person, all his troops went along with him? The truth was, Shannon had already heard this story several years ago, but whenever a discussion of his father led to this sort of topic, George always glowed and looked like he was having a great time. So Shannon just smiled without interrupting, urging him to continue. Of course, in a capitalist world, money determines both your strength and the height of your fortifications. But you can't build a castle and succeed in war by yourself. Such things can only be accomplished with the support of many subordinates, by borrowing their power, borrowing their strength. After understanding this, when I look at my father's back, I realize how immature I am. I can clearly see how much competition he had to overcome before building up his own as he is now. George-san, you truly look up to your father. I'm jealous. Sorry, that's not how I meant it. I'm sorry, that's not how I meant it either. The two of them awkwardly looked at their feet. Shannon had no parents. She had been brought up in an orphanage owned by Kenzo called Fukuen House. Under the guidance of Kenzo, their honorary director, the orphanage offered members who excelled a chance for on-the-job serving experience. In their efforts, met with Kenzo's approval, to be able to leave the orphanage and work as servants for the Yorishimiya family. This was considered to be the highest honor for those who lived in the orphanage. Servants with the Fukuen house all took names of the characters on in them while they served. So Shannon, or Shannon, wasn't her real name. The same went for Cannon. All the members of the Fukuen house were orphans. Yes, they were all people who had been separated from their parents under special circumstances. Because of this, the orphans had been taught to think of each other as their only family. That's why it seemed so natural to the both of them when Cannon called Shannon his sister. And while both Shannon and Cannon were working in the mansion today, there were several other servants possessing the On character in their names, such as Manon and Lennon, who often worked in rotational schedule. However, there were not many servants who stayed with the Yorishimiya family for long. It was standard for them to quit after 3 years. So you'd probably say that Shannon, who had been working for 10 years, was a notable exception to the rule. Working as a servant for the Yorishimiya family was a heavy burden to bear, but the pay wasn't bad at all. Working for a full 3 years would earn more than what they needed to enter mainstream society. That was why, even though the orphans realized the harsh task working for the Yorishimiya family was, they still hoped to be accepted. Maybe the fact that Shannon managed to continue working for 10 years wasn't because she had more willpower than other servants. Maybe she got stuck working for 10 years because she didn't have the courage to say she wanted to quit. Kenzo couldn't even trust his own blood relatives, and these excellent servants sent by the Fukuen house were the only ones he could rely on. Hey there, how's it going? I appreciate it. Yeah, my friend made this for me, so I've been using it now. She did a lot of good work on it, so hope you're having a good day, man. Or is it G-Man? G-Man? Just reading a little bit of a visual novel right now. You actually kind of joined at an interesting time, I'll tell you that. Because of that, Kenzo would sometimes allow to wear the family crest as servants under his direct control and have them work close to him. First time Umineko? Kinda, sorta. Okay, let me just save it right now. I have done the first 2 acts. I played it on vacation and enjoyed the hell out of it, and so I had to start streaming it and show it off. So this part's not new to me. The second act, I know what happens. after that point, it's all fresh. You've been working for almost 10 years now, right? You must have saved up a lot of money by now. I wonder. So far, it's been a beautiful game. I don't know how you say act. Like, I've gotten to 2 credit scenes. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know what else you'd call it besides the Witch's Banquet. Like, that scene. Oh, episodes. Okay, episode. I could take episodes. So it would be, yeah, the second episode. I wonder. It's not like there's anything in particular I'd like to buy. After all, a few million yen isn't enough to... This is so fucking adorable, by the way. These two are so fucking cute. So the reason you've been working all this time was to hit some target sum? Yes, that's right. I have nowhere to go outside this mansion. Wait, what? Wait. I'm a quarter? Wait, what? Am I missing something? I must be missing something, because, that should be half. At least half of this part. Am I missing? I might have to look into. Yeah, there was only like 4 episodes, at least in this version of the game. Am I missing something? Half of this part, and this is... there's another half. Okay. I didn't know that. I might look into that. You're doing the questions arc, there's the answers arcs 5 through 8. Okay. Okay, good looking out. I'll have to go and get those. Umineko knows both the questions and the episodes and answers 5 through 8. Got it. Cool, appreciate that. Thank you very much, guys. I'm enjoying this game, so if there's more of it out there, I'm definitely going to be buying it, so... I've been getting along with Milady and the other servants well. Actually, nowhere else to go. I've been getting along well with Milady and the other young servants. The Madame does scold me sometimes, but caring for the roses and cleaning the mansion is fun. So I'm assuming you guys have played this series before, or... because you guys sound like you know what you're talking about. But they can't be your entire life. Shannon-chan. No. Sayo-chan. Shannon cast her eyes downward when she heard her real name. She understood what George was trying to say and fell silent. There's something I learned as I continued to study, even after becoming an adult and full-fledged member of society. A human's life is not as momentous or short as we thought when we were kids. All grade school kids have certain fears they can't shake. They wonder where they'll live the rest of their lives, like creepy... This is gonna be trouble for me, Jesus Christ. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I actually went to visit the IRL locations in Japan where they got the photos from. No shit! I flirted with playing again. I certainly didn't expect to say that when I first finished it. That's really cool. I've always wanted to visit Japan, but, I don't know, it's just been a beautiful game so far. It's been horrible. It's been truly traumatizing and terrible, but goddamn, has it also been beautiful. They wonder whether they live the rest of their lives, like sleeping classes after a monotonous and boring... It's monotonous, got it. Monotonous and boring school day. I'm a simmering fan, didn't like it at first, but the love is developing. Spending their time in the carefree... You know, God, I'm not there yet, but I just love the concept of what this game... Like, my guy is supposed to be sort of like a detective, and I love these, like, murder mystery games, so that was already got me hooked. And so, like, I'm still here just to figure out what the fuck is going on. Mostly because it totally defied expectations. I'm excited. I want to see where this goes. Spending their time in carefree laziness without anything interesting happening till it's all over. However, life's only like that for underage students. Compared to a human's life, the time they spend as students is nothing more than a blink of an eye. A period where they break through the shells of their immaturity. The inside of the shell may be hot, suffocating, and boring world. But the world beyond that shell is vast and filled with limitless possibilities. So far, your life has been trapped inside the shell called Shannon. I think you're under the mistaken impression that your life will continue like this forever. You're gonna say that so many times, I'll say it, and I've played it. The what the fuck is gonna be going to be there until even though the ending mysteries on mysteries and recontextualizations. Awesome. I just like I like a good murder mystery, and the fact that like it seems like every murder in this one has been a closed room murder mystery, which is impossible. Like, as a fan of detective stuff, like it should just be impossible. So, just from that premise alone, I'm hooked. Shannon couldn't deny those words. She'd been unable to harbor any clear doubts about her lifestyle, and since she never had any hope or goals of changing herself, she'd lazily continued living the way she always had. And if asked whether her life was satisfying, she wouldn't have been able to nod. She may have been intentionally averting her eyes from the truth. Without George's admonishment, she wouldn't have continued pretending not to notice as her real life slipped away, bit by bit, neglected. George-sama, is it wrong for me to continue living this way? Yeah, it is. Oh, and by the way, didn't you break one of our rules just now? George immediately gave a strict answer, then broke out in a mischievous smile. Shannon already knew what she was being chided for, but she hung her head again, apparently embarrassed. Didn't you promise not to use Sama when the two of us are alone? I couldn't obey that as a promise, but if it was an order, I'd have to obey it, because I'm furniture. It's so dehumanizing that the way they talk about themselves like that. Then it's an order. Yes, certainly, George-san. As Shannon hung her head, her face red, she said George's name again, this time following it with San. Yes, that's fine, Sayo-chan. George smiled at Shannon, Sayo, to praise her for her small act of bravery. This short exchange alone made it clear how far back the relationship had stretched. For a long while, the two talked as if the weather raging about them didn't even enter their thoughts. They talked about the many memories they built during their relationship that no one else knew about. Every once in a while, the flash of lightning would attempt to interrupt them, but this could sully neither the roses nor the time they spent blushing at each other. That's right. I have something I wanted to show you. What could it be? George, who had been speaking eloquently, suddenly started to stutter. Watching him, Shannon seemed to guess something. George timidly searched to his pocket. Something caught in the depths of his pocket, and just like the stuttering George, it took a while to get it out. It was a very small box. A small box covered in a deep blue velvet. That particular shape was enough to tell anyone what was resting inside. Shannon had prepared her heart somewhat, certain beforehand that this was what he'd been planning. But even so, when she saw it, she couldn't avoid blushing once more. God fucking damn it, they're so cute! They're so adorable, and I want nothing bad to happen to them. George opened the small box, took something out, and held it for Shannon to take. I want you to take this. I couldn't accept something so valuable. You can't take it? No, I'm unworthy of such a ring. Sayo, this isn't a request. It's an order. Take this ring. Okay? If it's an order, I cannot disobey. Yeah, that's right. Well done. Shannon, not wanting to show her bright red face, timidly accepted the ring from George's hand while still staring at the ground. That ring wasn't a simple accessory. It was a noble object, meant since ancient times to be offered to a special woman under special circumstances. Therefore, while George could order her to take it, he could not order anything beyond that. Anything beyond that would depend on not an order, but on Shannon, no Sayo's own will. God, this fucking music! That's another great thing about this game, is this music sets the tone just so well. So from here on, I'm not ordering you anymore. Sayo, I want you to give me your answer by tomorrow without using words. Do you understand? How should I won't order you any further, so this isn't an order. But a ring is something you put on your finger, after all. If you like it, you just put it on any finger you choose. Shannon had only pretended not to know. She had already understood what he wanted her to do. But she was standing at a huge crossroads of her life. Look how late it's gotten. Let's call it a day. George turned away from Shannon, acting just a bit bluntly. I could probably order you to order on your left hand. You might be timid and dependent enough to actually obey that kind of order. But I want to at least this last step, to be done by your own will, Sayo. Yes. So that's my order. I want you to think about it well tonight, and show me your answer tomorrow. Shannon nodded back. Today was the culmination of their many days spent together. This moment certainly hadn't come as a surprise to Shannon. We should be getting back to the guest house soon. If we take any longer, we'll make everyone worry about us. Oh, I'm sorry. I just remembered something I had to do with the mansion, so I have to go back to the mansion. At a time like this. Is that true? George stared in Shannon's face as he laughed mischievously. He definitely saw through Shannon's lie. However, when he saw how she felt, he could sort of understood how she might be embarrassed that she'd want to be alone. So because George realizing the meaning behind Shannon's lie, he accepted it. God damn it, some of the sound effects shock me sometimes. When it breaks the glass, and there's a couple other sound effects that just hit me when I'm not looking at the screen. Shannon entered the entrance hall to the mansion with a tottering gait. A mixture of exhilaration and uncertainty gave a feeling that she couldn't easily describe. It welled up in her chest until it felt like she was about to burst. After stopping for a second in front of the... Sorry, this one in particular is really nice to listen to. I think this was the one that was playing when they were playing down at the beach, and it felt like so just relaxing, and like you could just feel like there should be, it's just a mood of like nothing could go wrong. After stopping for a second in the servant room to take a deep breath and calm her heart, she opened the door. Inside, Goda, who had been ordered to take the midnight shift at the mansion tonight, was absorbed in a worn-out crossword puzzle magazine. He looked up for an instant to see if one of the family had come, and when he realized it was a fellow servant, he returned to his puzzle as if nothing had happened. Genji-sama told me to come and help you. Ah, is that so? That's a relief. I was just about to go check the... Sorry, sometimes I gotta reread these lines. I was just about to go check on that the mansion was fully locked, but I felt uneasy about leaving the room unmanned. After all, Kraus-sama and the others' meetings look as though it will continue after quite some time. They might request some tea at any moment. That's true. Then what shall we do? Shall I watch over? In that case, forgive me, Shannon-san, but I'll ask that you patrol the mansion. You lazy son of a bitch! I will stay here, awaiting your family's orders. Yes. Shannon was slightly disgusted. Even though she had come here to help out as a favor, she was casually being forced to do the job of the person actually on duty. Furthermore, after one-sidedly forcing that task on her, Goto returned to his magazine once again and became immersed in his crossword puzzle book. Shannon bowed her head, and as a token sign of respect for her elder, then left the room to patrol the mansion. Thanks to her being a bit ticked off, she managed to suppress that floaty feeling she'd been having just now. And anyway, she couldn't let Genji or Kanon see her looking like this. She wanted a little time to herself until her heart calmed down, so maybe going on patrol wouldn't be so bad. She began to hear the tumultuous voices of the family discussion coming from the dining hall. Someone was speaking at great length only to be interrupted by someone else. This second person also began to speak in a very long, drawn-out fashion until yet another person interrupted. They kept on repeating. It was as though their displeasure was seeping out through their voices. She had been told to go to the guest house. It would be bad if Kraus discovered her. Thinking this, Shannon dashed past the dining hall. And then she went along a prearranged route to the dark mansion, checking all the locks were secured. She walked down the hall, checking each window. There were no humans on Rokonjima other than those connected to the family, so locking up didn't really serve much of a purpose. No one had been in the habit of locking up at the Hiroshima head family, not at least until Natsui had scolded him for being careless. The metal fixtures on the windows were ice cold. As she checked them one by one, the glow in her heart seemed to cool down. Okay, I think that's like the actual first time we have seen something like that happen. At that time, she thought she saw something twinkling across the hall. Twinkling? How could anything be twinkling through the darkness of the hall? She figured she must have been imagining it, but she still held her breath. Grasping a curtain, she fearfully gazed down the hall. However, other than the occasional crack of thunder brightening the hallway, she was unable to glimpse any flicker again. It must have been her imagination, after all. Maybe her heart was so agitated that she'd seen something that didn't even exist. Shannon went back to checking the windows. However, a certain unnerving memory resurrected into the back of her mind. It was that ghost story which had been passed down amongst the servants who served the Hiroshima head family. Give me 1 second. The mansion had 2 different masters, one of the day and one of the night. Beatrice, the master of the night, would sometimes fly around the mansion in the form of sparkling butterflies. That was the story. Come to think of it, didn't Kanekun once say he had seen with his own eyes? Though he got sulky when I said he must have imagined it and refused to believe him. Could it possibly be true? The roar of the thunder gave no answer. I actually don't like this. It's so creepy. Yeah, that's the one thing I will actually like praise to all heavens is this, the sound design is so good. Um, like the music choices are just perfect for the scenarios that they're in. The second day, October 5th, 1986. Genji tightened his bow tie and looked outside to the cracks in the curtain. Maybe the rain had died down a tiny bit since the previous night, but the thick rain clouds didn't seem like they'd been letting any trace of the morning sun get by. The morning was dim and far from refreshing. It seems it'll last all day after all. Sorry to keep you waiting, Genji-sama. Cannon finished checking his appearance and exited out the washroom. On their normal schedule, it was rare for anyone to have to suffer going straight from midnight shift to early morning shift. They were on a special schedule for the 2 days of the family conference. However, unless a typhoon passed, the relative stay on the island would last until tomorrow. Cannon thought it best to prepare for the special schedule to last an extra day. The two of them left the guest house, opening their umbrellas. The rose garden had been devastated by the wind and rain on the previous night. Even though they spent several days making it look beautiful to welcome the guest, one stormy night was enough to ruin it. It's a nice little bit of foreshadowing there. Cannon sighed. The two headed for the mansion. They're supposed to meet up with Goda and prepare breakfast. Goda was such a perfectionist that he had probably already woken up and was probably already preparing a breakfast as exquisite and elegant as glassware. They reached the overhang of the entrance to the mansion and folded up their umbrellas. Genji took a bundle of several keys from his pocket and unlocked the front door. The Hiroshima mansion was the only thing on Rokenjima, so in the past they hadn't been in the habit of locking up. However, Natsu had ordered that the mansion be locked up after midnight to early morning. Ever since then, unlocking the door in the early morning has become a part of the servants' morning shift. The task had been given to Genji and Cannon so that Goda could start preparing breakfast as soon as he woke up. Silence had fallen into the mansion, giving the impression that the mansion itself was still asleep. Well then, let's begin the morning chores. Yes, sir. The two of them split up and began opening the curtains throughout the mansion. If the curtains stayed closed, the mansion would have remained enveloped in faint darkness, as though it was still trapped in the previous night. Following a well-rehearsed procedure, Cannon went around the mansion, opening the curtains one window after another without having to retrace his steps once. Even with this horrible weather, drawing the curtains made it feel a little bit like morning. While doing that, he passed in front of the kitchen. Even though he hadn't smelled anything yet, his stomach's been aching for some of Goda's prized cooking. Good morning. He tried to meet Greek Goda, who should have been getting breakfast ready, but Goda was nowhere to be seen. The kitchen was darkly lit, and not only were the curtains not open, but the fan wasn't even running. It was still cold without a trace of fire being lit, so of course there was no sign of breakfast being made either. Though it would have been inexcusable, perhaps Goto had overslept. Even servants are only human. They sometimes sleep in and show up late. In the rare cases of such a thing happens, it's part of a servant's code to hide that unsightly scene before anyone notices, smoothly covering it up, and make sure the family never even realizes that anything had gone wrong. Cannon took the receiver from the phone that had been fitted to the wall and dialed the number for the extension line to the servant's sleeping room. He couldn't hear that classic, characteristic sound of a dial tone. Cannon tried picking up the receiver again, but even so, he couldn't hear the usual dial tone. He tried dialing again, but it had no apparent effect. Could the lightning last night have damaged some machine, breaking the extension line? The equipment in his mansion was all worn out. Cannon fully understood that even the smallest things could have caused it to break down. He gave up trying to rig Goto with the phone and dashed over to the servant's sleeping room. How long has it been since I stopped sleeping and started lazily staring up at the ceiling? That vague sense of awaking was part of Natsui's usual morning experience. She had always slept lightly and couldn't sleep at all without medicine. To Natsui, sleep was definitely not a happy thing. When she looked outside, she saw that it was still pouring. Well, no wonder she's got fucking headaches if she's getting only light sleep. Christ, I can't imagine what that's doing to her mental state. Don't you need that deep REM sleep? Which only begs the question, why did she have trouble sleeping? I didn't even catch that my first time. That's such a, like... That's what I kind of love about this game. That some of the lines are so subtle that, like, I've noticed, but they can reveal so much about some of these characters. Like, I didn't pick up on that the first time. Sleep was definitely not a happy thing. That implies she doesn't like going to sleep. There's something... There's gotta be, like, something triggering her when she's sleeping. Ooh, that's gonna be interesting if that comes up. Ooh. I don't know. Sometimes there's just a couple lines that, like, it just sticks out to me. Like, there's gotta be something there. She looked outside. She saw that it was still pouring. If she hadn't sensed a tiny amount of light, she might have mistakenly thought it was still the previous night. She herself was one of the hosts, so she mustn't wake up later than her guests. Urging herself on, she raised up her body and still hadn't completely recovered from yesterday's weariness. No one would torment her as long as she remained inside this room, and her headache wouldn't get any worse. This room was the only place she could find peace. So when she left, it meant returning to the world where her husband's siblings kept trying to stab each other in the back. In that case, wouldn't it be better just to stay locked up in this room forever? That ridiculous notion brought a bitter smile to Natsui's face. She was starting to sound like Kenzo. Though she often complained about Kenzo staying up late in his own room and refusing to attend everyone else, the truth is, she longed to do the same. Natsui gave her head a small shake, and her fantasy was replaced with the reawakening of her usual headache. When she reached for the doorknob, trying to leave the room, her hand touched the scorpion charm she had hung on it before going to sleep the previous night. It was Maria's charm, which Natsui had received from Jessica. Didn't Jessica say something about having the power to repel magic, telling her to hang it on her doorknob? Maybe it was thanks to the charm that at least this room had been protected from the malice of her husband's siblings. As she thought this, her mood began to get a little bit more cheerful. I wonder if Jessica's to thank for the little bit of peaceful sleep I managed to receive. Then Natsui remembered. That's right. Last night, I promised Jessica that I'd give her a charm of my own in exchange for this one, didn't I? Natsui opened the drawer in her dresser and took out an antique accessory case she had treasured when she was a child. Inside, there were many small objects that Natsui had thought were valuable at the time. From amidst those, she pulled out a red pouch. Inside was a small, round mirror, about 10 centimeters across. It looked quite old, but the design on the back of the mirror was very ornate. It felt like something with historical value. At the very least, it seemed more authentic than the other charm, which seemed like a plastic scorpion keychain. She had heard that this was a spiritual mirror for warding off evil spirits, and she had given it especially by her grandmother when her grandfather's mementos had been distributed. It had been believed since long ago that a strange power resided in this mirror. Or perhaps people get it through, though it could reflect. Okay. Perhaps people thought it could reflect calamity and malice in a way it reflected light. Not so we returned the mirror to its pouch. It'd probably be a fitting object to hand over to Jessica. Just as she was placing it in her pocket, the sound of someone knocking on the door suddenly echoed throughout the room. Yes? Good morning, madame. It is Genji. My apologies for waking you so early. I'm coming now. What is it? No servant had ever come to her this early in the morning, nor had they come to wake her in person. Perhaps something bad had happened. Maybe some fatal oversight which been made while preparing breakfast. Someone that shamed the household in front of their guests. Matsui took a deep breath in anticipation for whatever trouble she was about to hear of. When she opened the door, Genji once again gave a morning greeting while bowing deeply. Natsui tentatively responded. Good morning. Did something happen? My apologies. It would seem that the telephones have broken down due to the lightning last night. The extension telephone isn't working, so please forgive my coming to see you directly. The extension telephone isn't working? Then that will be troublesome. Will it be possible to fix it? I am afraid we don't know the location of the damage. Later on, I'd like to call in an expert and have him repair it. Does that mean we will be unable to repair it until the typhoon passes? Then it will remain broken down during the duration of the guest's stay? Will that hamper our efforts to care for our guests? We will do all we can to ensure there are no problems. Very well. I'm counting on to make sure there's no blunders. Natsui let out a small sigh of relief. She had prepared for the worst. But damage to the telephones wasn't the kind of trouble she was worried about. Then again, even this probably be enough to spark sarcasm from Ava. Natsui gave her head a little shake. Are the preparations for breakfast proceeding well? As to that, we haven't been able to find Goda. The arrangements for breakfast have yet to be carried out. What did you say? Natsui was indignant. To her, this was a much bigger problem than the phones not working. And despite this piece of information was the part that had been postponed. Why did everything go so well most of the time, then come to something like this when the relatives were visiting? Natsui put her hand to her forehead and shook her head. Well, I suppose he slept in. At any rate, just see to it that someone hurries up and prepares breakfast. I don't care who. What? Natsui exited into the hall and turned around a second to close the door to her room. The creepy thing she saw there silenced her completely. It was an unpleasant sight, as though someone had dipped their fingers in reddish-black liquid and scratched at the door around the doorknob. It was probably some kind of awful prank, arranged by some person who wanted to make it look as though they tried to force the door with bloody hands. What sort of prank is this? How awful! I also just noticed as I came to call you. I will clean it later. Perhaps this is a vulgar joke by one of the guests? Disgusting! Truly disgusting! Who in the world would call such a childish and disgusting prank? Natsui had a pretty good idea, but of course there was no proof. So even if she pushed the issue, it would seem as though she was making a fuss about nothing. In fact, it would surely be better as though she even realized that such a prank had been played on her. Natsui gave the order to have it cleaned and head out to the parlor with the squeak of her heels. When Natsui and Genji arrived in the parlor, Eva and Hideyoshi were already there. Good morning, everyone. Morning, Natsui-san. I heard Goda-san would be making us breakfast too. My stomach's been getting all excited since I woke up. After all, it seems food is all you know to look forward to at the head family household. Oh, it seems food is all you can look forward to at the head family household. I'm pleased to see that you two are in high spirits so early in the morning, Eva-san. With a weary expression, Natsui returned Ava's gaze, which was fiercely competitive despite the early hour. And Cannon jogged in. After bowing an apology to the relatives for running inside the mansion, he'd noticed Genji and told him something in a small voice. Cannon? Have you still not found Goda? My apologies, madame. I went all over the inside of the mansion and the guest house, but I still haven't found him. Where in the world has he gone? At any rate, breakfast is the higher priority than finding Goda right now. See to it immediately. Yes. Cannon glanced at Genji. It seems he had something else to report, but it was uncertain whether or not the words should come from him. Genji nodded and decided to give the report himself. Madame, it is not only Goda. Your husband is now also nowhere to be found. My husband? Yes. Even before visiting you, I went to his room to call him that breakfast wasn't being prepared, but I did not find him there. Furthermore, he is not the only one missing. Rudolph-sama, his wife, Rosa-sama are nowhere to be found. Not in the guest house? Nor the mansion? Yes, they were not in their rooms at the guest house either. When she heard that Godo alone was missing, she had assumed that he had slept in or was loafing around somewhere. However, now that she learned that several of the relatives were also nowhere to be seen, she began to take a slightly more optimistic view. I don't know how that's optimistic to go, hey, the guy might have been lazy. No, it's even worse, they might be dead. How is that optimistic? Could last night's family conference have continued up all night until the present moment? If so, they might have wanted to cool their heads after being shut off in the stuffy room, going out for walks on their own through the rain. Part about cooling their heads really sounded like something Krauss would say. Goda had probably been summoned to accompany him and aid him in some way. I guess that kind of makes sense. Goda was not a man who lost track of time. He had to understand that preparation for breakfast would be hindered if he did not return. However, maybe the family conference had continued until this very moment, with an atmosphere that made it hard for anyone to slip out. Yes, that theory would be quite convincing for Natsui. She remembered the illusion she felt this morning, as though the previous night had never ended. When she learned that the feeling wasn't just an illusion, she once again took a deep, weary breath. After all, the banquet of filthy vultures circling Kinzo's property was still going on. Perhaps they are still discussing the inheritance somewhere in the garden, or maybe the beach? At any rate, if we don't call Goda back, we'll never be able to regain preparations for breakfast. So, what are you saying? Are Nissan and the rest still continuing their discussion? She had planned to say it in a small voice, but Hideyoshi overheard Natsui and managed to grasp the situation. Nissan and Rudolph sure are tough. It's just youth in Rosa's case. Just a bit after midnight, the two of us were so tired we headed back to bed. Though I do remember that Nissan and the rest are still having a heated discussion at that point. And certainly are unpleasant when they get all fired up. Natsui snorted, her face still blank. Cannon, search outside. If you find Goda, tell him to return immediately and begin preparing breakfast. Certainly. Natsui Nissan, you don't know for sure that they're outside, do we? Couldn't they also be inside Father's study? I see. It's certainly possible. I don't know what path their conversation took, but there's certainly a chance they moved to Father's study and let him in on the discussion. I can't imagine that Father would willingly let him bring such a detestable topic into his study. Okay, I will be right back. I need to get something to drink. My throat... The thing with these visual novels is there's a lot of talking, and, whew. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Went to go get myself some drinks of water, just to kind of. There's a lot of talking in this game, and kind of hard to talk for a long period of time. Let's see here. You really think so? Well, there's nothing we can do. I'm sorry, Genji and Kanen-kun, but could you go search outside? It wouldn't be that strange for Nissan to suggest to go outside for a walk to cool their heads, even in this weather. I'll go to father's study. Who knows, they might actually be there after all. Eva-san, I can't ask a guest like you to exert herself so. I will go. I can also wish him a good morning while I'm at it. Oh, then I'll leave it in your hands. Though I somehow doubt he'll return your greeting. Natsui Nissan, have you always been on such good terms with father? I don't know whether you'd call it that, but I'm sure that I have gained his trust as the wife of the successor of the Yorishimiya family. Then I'm sure he'll at least answer you, right? I like to at least have breakfast with father. Do you think you could convince him to come down and join us? It seems he thoroughly despises the rest of us, but I'm sure he'll listen to you if he trusts you that much. After speaking so boldly, if you're unable to convince father to come down alone, then I doubt you'll ever be able to claim you've earned his trust again. I am not confident, but I will try. Natsui responded, looking discouraged. However, knowing Kenzo's temperament, she had absolutely no confidence in her ability to bring him out. Ava was clearly mocking her, confident that Natsui wouldn't be able to get Kenzo to come down. But even so, Natsui would lose face if she gave up, saying it was impossible and letting Ava go instead. Ava's mean-spirited and unreasonable demands made Natsui's clench her fists slightly. When Genji realized this, he softly spoke to her over her shoulder. Madam, please, take this, if you would. And this is... Genji handed Natsui a sparkling gold key of ornate design. It was the key to Kenzo's study. The study had an auto-lock and couldn't be unlocked as long as Kenzo forbade entrance. However, since Genji had especially trusted by Kenzo, he was allowed to carry a key to that door. But if this key is used, wouldn't you also receive the blame? When the master is sleeping deeply, simply knocking on the door will not suffice. And it would be more difficult to persuade the master to leave his room if you must talk to the door. Please, use this. Genji. Until now, Natsui had always thought Genji as a cold servant who wouldn't do anything for her unless he worked directly under Kenzo. And it looks like she would have to alter her understanding of him. She wanted to communicate her gratitude, but by then Genji had already turned her back on her and was walking down the corridor with Kanen. But as Natsui watched them go, the words directed at her from behind were sneering. Well then, you must bring back father with you, okay? After all, it's his son's precious wife who's asking. I'm sure he'll listen to you. We're guests, so we'll just relax here at our leisure. Quit it, Ava. You're taking this too far. Sorry, Natsui-san. We're counting on you to deal with father. Without answering, Natsui forcibly spun around on her heels and quickly left that place. After all that excitement the previous night, there was still no way anyone was going to wake up early. George Aniki, Jessica, and I snored loudly on the beds in our cousin's room. But Maria had gone straight to bed without joining in and was completely awake. As she rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked around, she was met with a loud snoring by the other three cousins. For a while, Maria had to think about what had happened. After that, she realized that her mother wasn't with her, and she quickly got lonely. Maria left the cousin's room, trying to head to the room where she had been arranged for her and her mother. Paying no heed to the three who were sleeping soundly, she slammed the door shut. In response, Battler mumbled and rolled over in his sleep, and it wasn't enough to wake him up. After a while, Maria returned, once again opening the door with a lively bang. Ooh. When she left the room, her face had been sleepy, but now that she was back, she looked irritated. After that, she climbed on Battler's bed, which happened to be closest, started yelling and jumping on it like it was a trampoline. Ooh, ooh, ooh! Wake up! Ooh, ooh, ooh! What? Is it an enemy raid? Surround them! After making sure I was awake, Maria moved over to George Anaki's bed and started jumping on that, too. The tonal whiplash, I swear to fucking God. We just went through like a solid 25 minute block of like where it was kind of suspense and like what is going on, where these people go, what's like, and then Ava's being a straight cunt because so there's a little bit of like that snickering back and forth, like trying to get a jab into Natsui, and Natsui already feeling terrible because she feels like a failure to her husband, so that's probably not helping her heart at the moment. So we just had this whole big like 25-minute section of this depressing and kind of emotional scene, and then we have this where it's just like I know this game is gonna do this all the time. It's just gonna it's complete total whiplash. In this matter, the three of us were all greeted with an extremely pleasant awakening. Thanks for waking us up, Maria-chan. You stopped us from sleeping in after a late night. If only you could have been a bit more gentle about it. George Nissan, you really are an adult. I respect that. You'll be 7 soon. It's not really a bad time to wake up. Oh, Mama's not here. Oh. Rosa? She wasn't in her room? I wonder if she's already woken up and gone to the mansion. Not here! Ooh! Mama! Ooh! Maria kept groaning ooh, and looking unhappy. She didn't exactly seem lonely because her mother wasn't around. It was more like she was irritated and thrown off balance because her mother wasn't where she was expected. If we could just tell her where her mother was, that alone would probably calm her down. But unfortunately, we had no way of knowing where Aunt Rosa was, except that she wasn't here. Anyway, it's time for breakfast, so let's head over to the mansion. That's right! Maria, let's go to the mansion together, okay? I'm sure Aunt Rosa will be there, too. Ooh? Mama's in the mansion? Then I'll go there. Ooh. Yeah, I guess we should go to the mansion. Our parents have probably already gone there. Maria gained her usual composure so completely her earlier tantrum now seemed like a lie. We got dressed, left the room, and headed for the mansion. Once more there was a knocking sound on the study door, but there was no answer. He seemed to be sleeping still, and I could not wake him. If she went back downstairs and said something like that, Ava would probably be amused and triumphant. And even putting Ava aside, it was problematic that Kenzo had stayed shut during the entire once-a-year conference, not even coming down to greet anyone. Even the family head, no, especially the family head, couldn't fail to make an appearance. I wonder if I could convince him myself. Natsui readied herself and used the key she borrowed from Genji to open the door. I have to wonder... I honestly do have to wonder, right? What Genji's motivations are. Was he just being nice in a moment and giving her the key to give her access to the room? To sincerely give her an opportunity to get Kenzo to come downstairs, actually, was he just doing it as a service to her, to Natsui? But Genji also seems to be this diehard loyal servant who would do anything for Kenzo, which would imply maybe he was doing it on Kenzo's orders, and Kenzo asked him to give her the key. And it wasn't so much out of, respect for Natsui, but Kenzo was actually wanting to meet Natsui or something, or Kenzo had a plan for her to open the study. I don't know. Even though she was prepared for a sweet stench, which seemed to eat into one's brain as it poured the small crack in the door, she couldn't help but grimace, thinking that he might still be sleeping. Natsui entered the room quietly. When he did, Kenzo was already awake and looking down out the window. So, you're awake. Good morning. How did you get in? Kenzo spoke with his back still facing her. His voice was not harsh, but calm, and Natsui was slightly reassured. However, though he was awake, he wouldn't have ignored all that knocking if he was in a good mood. Natsui wasn't able to relax. My sincere apologies. I asked Genji-san and he allowed me to borrow the key to the study. Genji did. If my friend thought it was important, then I have no choice but to listen. So, what business do you have with me? Well, breakfast will be ready soon, and I would greatly appreciate it if you would join us. I will eat here. Have it brought here like always. But Father, this family conference only happens once a year. Please at least let them see your face. Go back downstairs. Are you asking me to join in as to discuss how to chew up my inheritance after I die? How foolish. Let them speak of such matters as much as they please without me. And if that's what you call a family conference, it's hardly worth leaving my room for it. I am busy. Do not bother me. His last words carried the threat that any further questions would not be appreciated. Natsui realized that adding any further pleas would finally bring his wrath down upon her. She didn't look forward to facing Ava's sarcasm, but there was nothing more Natsui could do. Is that so? Understood. I am sure everyone will be sorry to hear it, but I will tell them. Natsui decided to give up. Bowing silently, she tried to leave the room before Kenzo's spasmodic temper could flare up. As she did, Kenzo spoke to her. His voice was so calm and gentle, it felt like it came from an entirely different person. Natsui, it has been quite some time since you married into the Yorishimiya family. Yes. It's been many years since I was first permitted to bear the name Yoshimiya. Do you sometimes long for your previous family? No. Marriage means abandoning your birth family. I am Yorishimiya Natsui. The Yorishimiya family is the only family I can come home to, and the only one I am fond of. She truly wasn't exaggerating. Such was the resolve she felt whenever she applied the Yorishimiya family's name to herself. That's precisely why she was so saddened when her husband didn't treat her like a Yorishimiya, leaving her to race about in vain. Ugh! Goddamn. I'm actually starting to feel bad about words on a page. If Kraus were a woman, and you his husband... No, I won't say that. What do you mean by that, Father? Natsui was shocked. If Kenzo's words just now were what they seemed, it would have been more than enough to make up for all she'd suffered to this point. Forget it. It's just the nonsense of an old man. Kenzo once again faced away from her. He told her to forget it, but Natsui couldn't help feeling a warmth in her heart. Father, even though I, Natsui, am not connected to you by blood, I am still your daughter. I will most assuredly see to it that your honor and glory and everything you left behind are protected. You do not have the right to wear the one-winged eagle. However, the one-winged eagle is surely engraved in your heart. That is irrefutable proof that you are my blood relative, one who would inherit the glory of the Yorishimiya family. Some will sneer that there is no eagle on your clothes, but such words are not worth lending an ear to. Only those who hold the eagle in their hearts are my true blood relatives. I now consider it an honor that you are welcomed in the Hiroshima family. Without saying anything more, Kenzo remained with his back to Natsui. However, Natsui couldn't help but feel something warm well up inside her that she hadn't felt since long ago, when she had just been a child. Natsui bowed silently to his back and left the room. That was actually kind of touching. Holy shit, I wasn't expecting to have something like that out of Kenzo. Ah, good timing. How is father? You were taking so long, so I came to check. When Natsui left the study, she saw Eva climbing the stairs and their eyes met. Eva was smirking unpleasantly, thinking that Natsui would leave drudgingly after failing to convince Kenzo. However, the way Natsui was now, such a frivolous laugh would not disturb her. She was not permitted to wear the family crest on her clothing, but she was permitted to wear it in her heart. So she spoke calmly, clearly, and confidently, with the dignity of one who would protect the Hiroshima family's glory. Father said he would not join in on the family conference. He's not interested in discussing such obscene matters. I'd figured you'd say something like that. If you failed to persuade Father, just say so. How pitiful. I'm beginning to see why Father lamented so. What do you mean by that? Natsui did not answer. Just as Kenzo had done earlier, she showed Eva her back as she headed down the stairs. Eva finally realized she was being made fun of, that something had happened to quickly bolster Natsui's confidence. Even so, she apparently didn't have the courage to risk Kenzo's wrath. Unable to even knock on the door, she could only click her tongue, making a notion of scratching at it, and followed after Natsui. So, were Nissan and the rest there? Did you ask Father about them? I didn't get a chance to ask, but they were not inside the study. Father would never let them in the room to discuss such a lowly topic, so it is unlikely he knows where they went. Let's go downstairs and wait for the servants to return from their search. Breakfast may be late, but how would you like some tea, Eva-san? That would be fine. Eva couldn't hide her confusion at the complete indifference in Natsui's attitude. She was acting so boldly, and while Eva hated to admit it, she even had a sense of dignity about her. Unable to find fault with anything, Eva could only follow Natsui back to the parlor. Oh, that's gonna be so tricky. Oh, fuck. They're drawing so much attention to how Natsui is either having these regretting thoughts about being in the family, because all she wants is to kind of like be seen as part of the Hiroshima family. Again, it's like how much of this is actually like real, and or how much of this is like just in the heads of the person, right? Was Kenzo actually there? Because he was saying the words that almost gave her a new sense of strength, like almost exactly what she needed to hear. But Kenzo doesn't seem that type of person. As so far from what we've seen, we've never seen any kind of warmth from him. We've not seen any sort of, like, care. Like, he gives a shit about any of the people here on this island. It's so out of character. It's almost like, was that real? Or was that fake? Ugh. I don't like where that goes. Actually, I kind of do like where that goes, but at the same time, I don't like where that goes. When the two of them returned to the parlor, Hideyoshi had joined by the 4 children and Nanjo. Genji, who had been talking with Hideyoshi, reported the current situation when he noticed that Natsui had returned. You have still not found my husband and the rest. Yes, my apologies. Also, Kumasawa has been started preparing breakfast. She said she'll be needing just a little longer. The clock read a little past 8. 8 should have been a time to start breakfast. Normally going after the time limit would be a disgrace to the host. Kenan is now searching outside. Also, no one has seen Shannon either. Even Shannon's missing. Truly, just how many people did my husband bring with him on his little walk? Just how many people had gone missing by now? Now the number was this large, it was starting to feel truly unpleasant, as though the people here were the only ones left out of something interesting. At least that seemed to reflect the feelings of the children and Maria in particular. She was indignant, her stomach grumbling, almost as though her mother and the others had left her to go off and eat something delicious without her. The other children were flipping through the channels on the television, trying to find a program that might interest Maria and cheer her up again. Nanja was sitting on the sofa, gazing blissfully at the children while reading a book. It must have been a book about chess. The sound of the footsteps came rushing towards them with a pitter-patter. There was only one set, so they realized that seeing who it belonged to, it could probably be Kenan, not Kraus and the rest. Madame, excuse me. Judging by your appearance, you still haven't been able to find them? My apologies. I still haven't... That will be enough. You've worked hard. I might have to take a small break. I might have a phone call here coming here in just a minute. I'm expecting a few things, but it won't be too long. Got some stuff from the VA that I'm working with, so that's always fun. She didn't know where they were, but they had to be somewhere on the island. They hadn't had a thing to eat since the previous night, so their stomachs must be growling about now. They'd probably come prodding back on their own to accept the cord before long. By now, Natsui had thoroughly exasperated and started to feel there was no reason to go out of their way in search. I'll go to the kitchen and prepare some tea for all the guests. Thanks to the both of you for all your hard work so early in the morning. Natsui left the parlor, acting as though the release in tension had caused a new surge in her headache. Kenan tried to call her back, but Natsui left swiftly. What is it? Was there something else? Yes. I was unable to find her husband or anyone else, but... Well... Kenan sounded evasive. Looked as though he didn't know where they were, but he had spotted something that might be connected to their disappearance. Eva and Hideyoshi noticed this exchange of words and came over. They probably picked out on something strange in Kenan's behavior. What's going on, Kenan-kun? Did you find Kraus-Nissan and everyone else? Actually, the Rose Garden storehouse looks strange. What do you mean, it looks strange? It was, how should I explain it? Kenan hesitated once more. His tone wasn't at all what he'd expect from the usual fearless boy. Seeing this, Eva and Hideyoshi looked at each other dubiously. What do you mean? Are you saying Nissan and the others were inside the storehouse? No, I'm going to inspect the inside now. I just now came back to get the key, but... I don't really get it, but it sounds like we're going to have to look around inside it. Where's the key to that storehouse? It is in the servant room. Let's check inside the storehouse at once. Kenan dashed off to the servant room and returned with the key. Genji left the parlor, saying that he would go check, and then Eva and Hideyoshi followed after him. What was this something strange about the storehouse that had caused the usually fearless Kenan to hesitate? It was still pouring outside, and perhaps their curiosity over this something that Kenan couldn't talk about won out. While the children made a big fuss watching the television, Kenan and the rest dashed over to the entrance. The Rose Garden storehouse was placed... Okay, you know what? I've only known it's going for like 2 hours. I think this is probably a fine point for me to stop at for right now. Very much appreciate the people who stopped in to chat a little bit, told me more, that there's even more chapters of this lovely game that I'm going to be able to play. Apparently, I didn't even know that there's another 4 chapters, so apparently we're in for a long haul, ladies and gentlemen. But for right now, I am going to call it there. We will find out what is going on at the Rose Garden storehouse next time. And maybe find out where the fuck did everyone disappear off to. But we'll save it for next stream. Alright, everybody. Thanks very much for watching. Appreciate it. Peace.